Hey, what's going on? I'm Mike Pinto from the Smart Guitarist, and today I'm here with a friend and a student of mine, Konrad Malinowski. He's brought his guitar over. It's about a 2007 Epiphone, or not Epiphone, it's a Gibson Les Paul Studio model. And we're going to do a little bit of work on it. So, Konrad, why don't you explain what we're going to do?
So we're going to install new pickups because I'm looking to coil split this guitar on a lot of the different worship music and a lot of the different pop type music that I play. I really want the single coil sound, and the current stock pickups on this guitar won't allow for coil splitting possibilities. So we're going to install these DiMarzio pickups into it and then run a coil split setup from there.
Yeah, so these are DiMarzio Air Classics. It's the match set, the neck and the bridge model. And you've got some little mini toggles here. These are double pole, double throw switches, on. Mm-hmm. So 3 settings. So we'll be able to do series, which is a standard humbucker setting, parallel, which is also humbucking, but a little different sound, and also a true single coil mode. So it'll hum, but it'll have more of a single coil kind of sound. So these switches will allow us to do that. And we're planning on replacing 2 knobs, right? So we're going to remove 2 of these, and then we'll be left with a master volume and a master tone, right?
Yep.
And then we also got a nice quality Switchcraft jack, just for good measure, because that's always an upgrade. I'm a little concerned that maybe the holes for the pots are going to be a little too big for those mini toggle switches. So we've got a couple washers here, which are not the most attractive things in the world, but hopefully they'll allow us to install those switches and at least get it going. So why don't we listen to it a little bit, and then we'll do the work, and we'll come back later and check out how it sounds afterwards. So why don't you give us the neck pickup? Cool. Okay, how about the bridge pickup? Cool. And so everything's turned up all the way over there, right?
All the way up. With
both volumes, both tones.
Yep.
Obviously, we're playing through my Dr. Z Maz 38, SM57, miking it up. Why don't you give us both pickups, too? Cool, okay. So, it sounds pretty good as it is, but obviously we'll have some more options with the parallel and single coil modes, and hopefully just the regular series humbucking sound will be an improvement as well over that. So we'll see what we get on the flip side. So see you in a bit. Okay, so the first task is to remove a bunch of the parts from the guitar, like the knobs, loosening up the nuts on the pots here. Flip the guitar over, take off the back plate, and you can see here that Gibson has assembled it with a metal plate to which all the pots are attached. So we're going to have to deal with that. Okay, so finish taking off the pots and the nuts. Finish taking off the knobs and the pots there. You can see I pushed them down, and we're going to try to get everything out of there. Probably going to have to not use that plate because the switches are going to need to be attached directly to the wooden body of the guitar. So here I'm desoldering many of the wires. I have to desolder the wires from the pickups as well as the wires from the switch. And you see that I've removed the jack there. So after doing all that, I should be able to get it loose. The last wire holding it in place there is the ground wire that goes to the bridge. So, okay, so now we're going to test out these switches. And this is sort of the moment of truth here, because I'm worried that these holes that were originally, of course, intended for pots are going to be too wide, and the top of the guitar is going to be too thick, and that is indeed the case. As you can see here, the switch does not protrude far enough for a nut to be threaded onto it. So this is a bummer. This is something we're going to have to deal with here. Okay, so my plan is to drill out the back of the guitar a little bit to thin out the top of the guitar in a way that will make it possible to mount the switch a little closer. So I've got a 1/2-inch bit, and I'm just going to drill down a little bit at a time to thin out the area immediately around that hole. Just going a little bit at a time and checking each time how much clearance I've made. That's not enough, so I've got to keep going here. Okay, I've got to do the same thing here for the other pot. Now, the thing is, I can't test this until I do a little more modification, because this switch, of course, is a rectangular housing. So I made this little template, as you can see here. It's the exact dimensions of the outside of that switch housing. And now I'm placing it over that hole that I just drilled out, and I'm marking out the corners of this little box shape, because I need to clear away a rectangular area, not just a circular one, if I expect that switch to fit. So I'm marking it in both potholes that I'm trying to modify here. Then I've got my trusty Dremel tool here. This is bit number 191, intended for engraving, and I'm running it at about 20,000 RPMs. I'm just going to take it and just gradually sort of carve out a rectangular area according to those marks that I made, and try to bring it down to about the same depth as that extra area that I drilled out using that 1/2-inch drill bit, as you saw earlier. This actually proved pretty easy. The bit was pretty easy to control, and just a little bit at a time, pressed into the wood until I made it fit. So that looks pretty good. And then I just continue to do that for all of the rest of the little corners. So of course I finished one before I tried the other one here. There it is, pretty much finished. Here's a better view of that. It looks pretty rectangular, which is nice. And now the switch presses in there. It doesn't rotate around, which is nice. But of course the real test is to see if I've created enough clearance to get a nut onto the shaft of that switch. And it looks as though that is going to work. Put the washer on, put the nut on, and that is going to work. And mercifully, the washer actually covers up that whole hole, just barely, but it does. Okay, so now it's time to put the new pickups in. Taking the old pickups out, taking them out of their pickup rings, putting the new pickups in the old pickup rings, and then reinstalling all of that. And now it's time to wire it up. So what I'm doing here is I'm using that metal plate just as a template. I'm not actually going to use the metal plate when I install the parts, but installing the switches and leaving those pots on that metal plate makes it a little easier to wire everything up. Here I'm doing the first switch, and I do the second switch that's done there, and now I'm wiring up the volume and tone pot, and also the switch, also the wires from the pickup selector switch, the big toggle up in the top corner of the guitar. And then again, when I'm done with all this, I'm going to take all the parts off of that metal plate and install them in the guitar cavity, just straight onto the wood. But if I were to try to do all this wiring right in the cavity, it will be a big hassle to try to reach my tools down in that cavity. Okay, I like to wire up the jack separately, put it in a little vise, and solder my wires in there. And then here's a little trick I use to get the jack in place. Stick a pencil in that hole, put the pencil in the jack, and then just pull it through. Tighten it up, and I braid those wires there just to create a little ground shielding around the hot wire. Okay, just finishing soldering everything up here. And now it's time to test it. Okay, so we're just testing to see if it works. Let's see, so this neck pickup, we'll test the pickup switch first. So neck pickup, good, okay, so neck pickup works, bridge pickup doesn't make any sound. Bridge pickup, nothing from the neck. The bridge pickup is working. And then both. Okay, good. All right, furthermore, let's check out the series parallel switches. So neck pickup, this is series mode. shades of color there. All right, the bridge pickup one. That sounds like a single coil mode. Yes. There's parallel. We'll go in reverse order. Parallel. Series. Sweet. Okay. Check the tone control. Okay, tone control is working. It doesn't get very dark, but it's working. And the volume control. Okay, volume control doesn't work. It just turns it off right at the end of the travel. But then there's nothing the whole rest of the time. Okay, so we got to fix that. Okay, so what we ended up doing was using a little resistor, as you can see there, to try to affect the taper of the volume pot. I had initially put that resistor there in parallel with the capacitor, as you see there, to try to retain treble as you turn the volume knob down. That's a pretty standard modification to do to guitars. But honestly, I think the problem really was just that the taper of this pot in the first place is just not very good because after trying a whole bunch of different values, nothing really seemed to make a difference. So we sort of resigned ourselves to the fact that that is just going to have to be how that pot sounds. Okay, so here I've taken the metal plate off, and now I'm trying to get that whole harness just installed in the guitar. And those pots have very long shafts, as you can see. Here I'm putting washers and nuts on them. I'm probably going to have to play around with the height of that pot off the guitar. I just tested it there, and the knob stuck off the guitar too far. So I'm raising that nut up, as you can see there, putting the lock washer back on, tightening it back down, and this should make the top of the pot shaft stick off the top of the guitar not quite as high. And now when I press those knobs in place, they're pretty much flush with the top of the guitar, which is good. Okay, there's a little tab on those washers for the toggle switch. Quickly there you saw me bend it flat so it doesn't stick up. Okay, I screw the nut on, and as I mentioned before, those nuts just barely cover those holes. Those holes are 7/16 of an inch, which are pretty big, and those washers are about a 1/2 inch, so they just cover the hole up, which is nice. And here is the completed new face of the guitar. 2 new pickups. Got a master volume, master tone, and then of course the mini toggles, 1 for each pickup. I tested it real quick. This is not documented on the video, but just I'll explain. I neglected to ground the housings of the switches themselves. So here what I'm doing is I'm not soldering wires in place, but I'm just sort of press fitting these little wires around the shafts of each switch to each other, and then tightening the switches back in place so that those wires just sort of like are squeezed against the shaft of the switch. And then the end of that wire I actually ground to the back of one of the pots so that the switches themselves are grounded. And I knew that I had to do this because we tested it, and every time you would touch the switch you'd get a little popping sound indicating that they probably should be grounded. So we're doing this to try to eliminate that from happening. Okay, then here quickly I'm testing to make sure that there's a ground connection made. So the meter goes to 0 when there's a connection. So of course the bridge is grounded, and as I touch each of these switches, the meter goes to 0. It goes to 0 when I touch them together, so a ground connection has been made to the switches, so we're all good. Okay, we're back. I had to take a break overnight, day 2 here, and I think we got smiles all around. Sounds a lot better. So obviously you can see we got the 2 knobs here. This is a master volume, master tone, and then you've got a separate switch. I thought we fixed that problem. All right, we'll deal with that later. Okay, it ended up not being a problem, actually. That little popping sound was just the sound of some static electricity discharging from my body to the guitar. There was no problem with the internal grounding of the guitar. Separate switch this is for the neck pickup, and this is for the bridge pickup. All the way down is series mode, all the way up is parallel mode, and in the middle, it's a single coil mode where I believe it's the screw side coil of each pickup that's isolated. So we've got the same settings on the amp and everything. So we'll go through each of the pickups and check out each of the 3 sounds available from each pickup. So here's the neck pickup in series first, so all the way down. Yeah. Great. Okay, how about parallel? Okay, single coil. Great, okay. So not a ton of tonal difference, seems like, between the single coil and parallel mode. But nice to have that option, although it's buzzing a lot more. Yeah, it's a big difference. Okay, all right, same thing for the bridge pickup. Let's go to the bridge pickup and listen to series first. Yeah, parallel.
Single coil.
Single coil. Cool. And let's try some two pickup sounds. Why don't you go both? Let's hear the bridge pickup in parallel, and put the neck pickup in series. Now flip the neck pickup to series as. Oh wait, that wasn't series. Yeah. Right. Flip the neck pickup to parallel. Okay, now put both of them in single coil mode. Cool. Pretty glassy sounding.
Yeah.
Sounds nice. Well, what do you think?
I love it. It sounds a lot better and a lot more versatile than it was before.
Yeah.
A lot more clarity on all the settings overall.
Cool. Okay, great. Well, success.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Check out thesmartguitarist.com. Look below for the link to the website. Get on my email list so you stay in the loop of new content like this being produced. And thanks, Konrad.
Thank you, Mike.
See you next time.